Welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm your host, Karen Seltz, also known as the Uncensored Self-Love Coach. So excited that you're here with me. Tonight, we are going to dive into how to figure out what you want and how to get it. So hang on to your hats. Let's rock and roll. If you are new to me, there's really only three things that you need to know. The first thing is, if you have a higher calling that you have yet to step into, just know I have been in your shoes. It took me forever to figure out what I wanted to do and to actually take action to do it. So I'm really happy that you're here and really excited to support you on your journey. The second thing that you need to know about me is I consider my greatest superpower to be that of a divine mirror. And what I mean by that is I'm able to see people as God, universe, spirit sees them and reflect it back to them until they see it for themselves. And the third thing that you need to know about me is that I am uncensored in my approach. I'm willing to go wherever I'm called to go, say whatever I'm called to say, and do whatever I'm called to do in order to get you to a breakthrough. So the reason I chose this topic is I think it is much easier for us to know what we don't want and to spend all of our time focusing on, oh, I have this in my life and I hate it. I don't like my job. I don't like my partner. I don't like my body. And if you're anything like me, focusing on that just gets more of the same. That's what it brings me. And what am I paying attention to? So whatever I'm paying attention to or focusing on, that's where my energy is going. And that is what will expand. And that's what I will create more of. So a lot of times when I start working with clients, I'm like, well, what do you want? What's your reason for coming to coaching or that you want coaching? And they'll be like, well, I can tell you what I don't want. So I like to start there for people that don't have a clear vision of what they want. If you start there at the place of here's what I don't want, you can see, well, I don't want this. So what's maybe the opposite of that or something different from that? And you're like, yeah, I can get behind that. So for example, if you don't want to stay up late and eat and watch TV, the opposite of that might be creating a bedtime routine where you are winding down and respecting your body and honoring yourself and your space in order to create some healthy habits and to love yourself. So that's an example from my life. For a long time, I was in the habit of staying up late. And in my mind, I justified it like, oh, this is me time. This is a time where, I don't have to be a mom or a wife or whatever it was at the time. I just got to relax. That's what I called it. But it really wasn't super relaxing. I was wasting time scrolling through social media or watching something on television. And when I stayed up late, I would get hungry for real sometimes because it had been so long since I had dinner, or other times I was just bored. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. And I would fall into the cravings. So I became overweight. I became unmotivated because I would wake up late and I felt like I was running. From the moment I hit the ground, I'd be like, okay, there's no time to pause. There's no time for a morning routine because I hadn't built it in. So when that was pointed out to me, I'd like to say I figured it out on my own, but that wasn't the case. So when that was pointed out to me, I had a coach. She said, you get to master your mornings. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I said, well, what do you do? And she said, I go to a 5:30 a.m. yoga class Monday through Friday. And before I could stop my mouth, I heard myself say, well, I could do that. And I'm like, oh crap. I mean, I was staying up till like 1 a.m. Imagine getting up at 4:45. So once I made that declaration out loud, I'm like, well, I must put my money where my mouth is because I know about the importance of integrity. So the only place I could find that had a 5:30 a.m. yoga class Monday through Friday was hot yoga. And I'm like, oh crap. So a couple of years before that, I had done a hot yoga class and I had vowed I will never do that again because I was exhausted for 3 hours afterward. Well, guess what? When that was my only viable option, After I did my first hot yoga class, I'm like, I feel great. I mean, it did nothing. Like, yeah, it was hard, it was challenging, but it didn't zap me. I was perfectly energized. And I was finished by 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning with my exercise. And consequently, I got a ton more done. I released weight and I liked myself. I was proud of myself. I was motivated. I was energized. So that's an example. I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to waste time anymore. I didn't want to be unproductive. I didn't want to be overweight. So, contrast, right? So, let's dive into this topic. I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll rock and roll. So, how to figure out what you want and how to get it. So, the questions you get to ask yourself, the first thing is to really find contrast. This is what we've been talking about. And some questions you can ask yourself in order to find that contrast is, what don't you want? Because most of us know that. Okay, I don't want this anymore. Second thing is, what are you just done with? What will you no longer tolerate in your life? So it might be toxic people. It might be junk food. It might be scrolling on social media till 1 in the morning. What are you done with? And then this is a fun one. When you get with your friends, what are you complaining about? Are you complaining? If so, what are you complaining about? And then the last one is, if there were just one thing you could change about you, yourself, or your life, what would it be? What would that one thing be? And this is how we get to start to get clear on what it is that we want. Next question, and this is fun. This just came up in a workshop I did. What did you want when you were little? Like, what did you want to be? What did you like to do? What would you spend your time doing? What did you get lost in for hours? Like, I remember in the summertime growing up in Michigan, swimming, and I would have this whole fantasy going on, like this world, and I would swim for hours by myself. And I wanted to be a teacher at one point. And then when I was a teenager, which is our next question, I wanted to be a doctor. And then in your 20s and 30s, what did you want to do or be? And what about now? And it's interesting what I realized by doing this exercise of what I wanted when I was little is, guess what? I wanted to teach, which I'm doing now, and I want to be a doctor. And I realized that I am a healer. So I am doing those things. It's just not in the way that I expected to be doing them. But I'm still doing them. So that was really an aha for me. So what is your thing? What did you want to do or be when you were little? And then as you got older, and we're going to get into what stopped you and what were the stories that you made up about those things, because there's always something under it, isn't there? Yes, there is. The next question is, if a genie granted you just one wish, what would that be? And it can't be for more wishes, it can't be for more genies, but what would that one thing be? And just, sit with that, take some time, figure it out. Like, what would that one thing be? Would it be a new job, a partner, different partner, a different home, a different location, a different body, a different mindset, a different bank account? Or what's the thing for you? It could be anything. And there's no right or wrong here. It's just, it is what it is. Another question to ask you yourself is, what limiting stories or beliefs come up when you think about what you want? So a lot of times when we start asking ourselves these questions, this voice automatically comes up like, well, that's nice, but you can't have it. And here's why. Or if you are successful or if you are wealthy, then this will happen. So these fears kick in. And one thing that's really, really important, you may want to write this down, is fear oftentimes masquerades as logic. Fear masquerades as logic. And so it seems so believable that we're like, well, yeah, if I become wealthy, none of my friends that I have now will want to hang out with me. They'll think that I think I'm better than they are. Whatever your story is, that's mine. Um, so it's really important to get into those. Like, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What are the voices that are coming up? And sometimes you just say them out loud. So if you say that out loud, like one of mine is, if I have a lot of money, I will be unlovable. And it comes from childhood, stuff my mom said about people who had money, that they thought they were better than everybody else. So do this with me. Write down your one story or belief, whatever it is, the first one that comes up or the most powerful one. So mine, we're going to use as an example, is, if I have a lot of money or if I'm wealthy, I will be unlovable. So I want you to say it out loud. No matter who's around, just say it out loud. If I have a lot of money, that means I'm unlovable. After you say it out loud, then close your eyes for a second and take a slow, deep breath down into your belly. And then blow it out with a sigh. And then say it again. We're going to say it a total of 4 times. If I have a lot of money, that means I'm unlovable. If I have a lot of money, that means I'm unlovable. If I have a lot of money, that means I'm unlovable. And just notice what happens to it. Each time, for me, it gets a little lighter. It gets a little like, that's an illusion. Like, that's a load of crap, right? So each time I breathe into it, it loosens its hold on me. And I'd love to know what occurred for you as well, because it is that simple. We can shift our beliefs that quickly, especially when we realize, like, even saying it out loud, the fact that having a lot of money means that I'm unlovable, they don't connect to my logical brain. Like, that makes no sense. Like, how could that possibly be? And then breathing into it, it loosens its hold in the body. So do that exercise and do it with all of your limiting beliefs. So when is the first time you remember thinking or believing that? So whatever it was, like mine, if I have a lot of money, that means I'm unlovable. And I remember being little and having my mom talk about people that were her bosses that thought they were better than everybody else. So I made this agreement with myself that I would never be one of them, those wealthy people. So then we get to look at, how is that played out in your life? So for me, it's played out in me saying no to certain opportunities, hiding, playing small, letting other people get credit for even my ideas, or building up other people, working harder for other people than for myself as an entrepreneur, and undercharging or not charging at all. So whatever your belief is, look at how it's played out in your life, because there will be some breadcrumbs there for you to follow. The next question is, what would you rather believe? So in my case, I would rather believe that I easily attract abundance and I am lovable no matter what. I easily attract abundance and I'm lovable no matter what. So whatever it is for you, figure out what you'd rather believe. And then we are going to the evidence piece. When was a time in your life that was actually true for you? When was a time, that what you would rather believe, actually you have evidence that it happened, that it's true? And then I like to take it a bit further. Which characteristics or ways of being did you utilize, or who were you being when it was true for you? And that is what you get to write down. You get to look at that every single day. You get to look at it, you get to create more of it, because what we focus on expands. Now, this is fun. This is something called levels of logic, and I don't know where it comes from. I learned it from James Wedmore. And one of the things that is super common in our society is to look at the environment. And in the environment, it's things like your stories, your excuses, your reasons, looking at things like how do I do that? I don't know if I'll be successful. So I don't want to start. I don't have enough time. So it's all the reasons. And it's allowing your circumstances to dictate everything else. And the key to this pyramid is to flip it upside down and start at the top. Identity is who you be in the world. What characteristics do you possess that you can focus on? Now, it's a choice. It's a choice every single day. And I personally like to make declarations like, today I am committed to being powerful. Today I'm committed to being focused. Whatever it is, I start with identity, who I be in the world. I am committed to being compassionate, loving, whatever it is for you. Courageous. I love the word courage because it is the predecessor of everything you want, because it takes courage to get out of your comfort zone. And outside of your comfort zone is where the magic is. So when you go to your identity, you start with who you be, then you can go to your beliefs. Okay, what do I believe is true? What do I believe is true about myself? What do I believe is true about the world? What do I believe is true about God, universe, spirit, whatever it is for you? And then you can go to your capabilities. Okay, what's my current skill level? And depending on what you want to do, who you want to be, you may need to beef this up a little bit. For most of us that are of a certain age, we have a zillion capabilities, a zillion skills, yet we are in the seek and not find pattern where we think we need more because we don't have the same skills as somebody down the street. Well, you don't need those. You need your skills. That's all you need 99% of the time. Unless you're doing something like, I don't know, engineering or being a doctor, then you need certain capabilities. And then from there, you get to what you have, your current circumstances, your environment. So I'm going to take you guys to a fun, really eye-opening exercise on the next page. So I invite you to screenshot this. Go ahead and screenshot it. You have my permission. Do it. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your current identity and you're going to start at the top and do the identity piece. So who are you being in the world right now, without sugarcoating it? Who are you being? What are your beliefs? What are the beliefs that are driving what you're doing, which is your capabilities? Capabilities, what is your skill level and what are you doing? What action are you taking? And the environment is what you have. And then think about who you want to be in the world. Like when you identified earlier what you want, what does that person look like? Who does he or she be? Who does she be? I love that. How much money does she make? What kind of car does she drive? What does her body look like? What does her posture look like? How about her wardrobe? How does she interact with people? Are people attracted to her? Is she approachable? Is she loving? Is she open-hearted? Is she funny? You know, whatever it is, look at all of that as far as characteristics go. Who does she be or he? And then what are her beliefs? What are her beliefs that drive her ways of being? Because a lot of times it comes that way. And then what are her capabilities? And what is her environment? So I want you to write this down in detail, like where you are and where you're headed. And then you can focus on, for the next 30 days, looking at that, who you're being in the future, what's your future identity, and start again, like with the identity piece, like who you're being. And every single day, I invite you to make a declaration. Today, I am committed to being powerful. Today, I'm committed to being. And then from there, you can come up with some committed, like inspired action steps. Like, okay, in order to be courageous, I get to do my first Facebook Live, for example, or whatever it is for you. Or if you have a money block, I get to ask someone to enroll in something. I get to sell something. Whatever it is for you, you get to figure it out. And for 30 days, I invite you to visit this. and concentrate on who you are choosing to be in the near future and bring it to you now. Now, life is now. All right. Have you heard of confirmation bias? I talk about it a lot. I don't always name it. But confirmation bias is the definition is the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories, which means, in other words, you always get to be right about what it is you believe. And you will see, believe, and experience what you already believe to be true about yourself and the world. So if you believe that the world is a dangerous place, what are you going to see? Or it's hostile, you're going to see people cutting you off. You're going to see people, yeah, I don't know, like just not being nice, not being considerate, not being kind. You might have a tendency to watch the news so you can prove that you're right about that. What happens if you switch that and you say, show me that the world is a kind and loving place? You're telling your subconscious mind to look for that and it will find it for you. You'll have people say, no, go in front of me. You just have, one or two items. Please go in front of me. People on the freeway will be kind, say, of course, get in. People might buy your coffee at Starbucks. I mean, it's incredible. When you put that energy out there, it's incredible what you'll see back. So play with it. Treat your life like you're a scientist and be willing to experiment. So it goes back to, what is it that you want to believe? What do you want to believe about yourself, about the world? Seek evidence for that and you will find it. So in order to do that, you get to review it every single day. What do I want to believe? And I like to write it down every single day. By the end of the day, come up with, say, 3 pieces of evidence that what I want to believe is actually true already. And then you'll find it, and what you focus on expands. So once you create that base, you're going to keep expanding it, and life's going to get fun and interesting, and it's going to be by your design. And I want to share this with you because I love this. So what are you choosing to believe? In the leadership coaching that I've been doing for over a year, there was a woman who worked for the company named Desiree Kroner, and she is a phenomenal coach, phenomenal. And I was like telling some story, probably about a student I was coaching, or about something in my life. I don't even remember, but I wrote this down because I'm like, this is brilliant. She said, is this the most empowering story that you can tell? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Brilliant. So what story do you want to tell? You get to write it. You get to be the uncontested author of everything, everything. So whatever you're experiencing, you could put a new spin on it. Whatever you've experienced in the past, you can reframe it because all events are neutral. So if someone else were telling a story, say one of my brothers, we grew up in the same house, they would tell a completely different story of my life than I would. They have their own biases. They have their own opinions. They have their own expectations. So it's really super empowering to rewrite certain stories, especially if they're victim stories. And I had the opportunity to do this when my father passed away. I volunteered to do his eulogy, and I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, yeah, I got a big set of ovaries. I'll do it. So the first thing I was reading in my research was, don't say anything negative. I'm like, oh crap, what am I going to say? Up until that point, I had like a long line of victim stories around my dad. Like he was mean, he was physically abusive, he was loud, he was selfish, like whatever, like a bunch of crap. And find it funny. So then this exercise of thinking about what was positive about him reframed my entire childhood. I got to look at what he did well, what he did give to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a lot. But guess what? I was focused on all the crappy stuff. So my dad was a drama teacher. So he instilled in me the love of theater and music. He loved to travel. He took us all over the place on a teacher's salary. So also like how to stretch money, how to create what you want by setting an intention, like all kinds of stuff. My dad was funny, like I got probably my humor from him. So there were all kinds of things. And then the stories that I remembered were hilarious. Now, sure, my mom corrected me because I was remembering them from my 7-year-old mind. My mom, who refused to get up and talk in front of anyone, was correcting me while I was in front of everyone. And luckily, I just laughed because that was her. But there are so many ways to interpret every single event. And what are you forgetting about? What are the positive things in your life that have taken you to the place where you are now? And what are the things that you labeled as negative? But without those, you wouldn't be who you are today. I think for me, some of the most interesting people I've come across are those that have overcome some type of adversity. What do you do with it? How does that make you who you are and give you resilience and grit? I mean, there are so many things that come from adversity, more than just being interesting, but you have a story, you've overcome something, and you can support other people overcome the same things. So it's all in how you look at it. I hope this was helpful for you. I know it was a lot. And I want to share with you that I have something to offer you. Now, in my line of work, I'm a coach. I work one-on-one with women and men, and I also do some group coaching. And what I'm offering in this moment to you is a free possibilities call. Now, the reason that I'm offering that is if you're anything like I was, you may get stuck. You may think, well, this is the best life's going to get. I might as well just accept it. And, I'm on my path. I've chosen it. I've made my bed. Now I get to lie in it. And that's simply not true. And for me, my biggest limiting belief was I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start. So if you have any of those conversations, like I don't know where to start, I don't know what I'm here for, this is the best I can do, then I invite you to really look at this and book a call with me, because I have the ability to see you through the eyes of the divine and to reflect back to you what comes through for you. And that could be like, you are meant to do this. Like I had somebody on my show the other day afterward, and I'm like, I see it. You are meant to lead a movement. You are meant to speak. And it just came through. It wasn't from me at all. So that is what's possible for you. And then we'll just uncover that. And we'll do it like gently and fun, in a fun way. It doesn't have to be heavy. It better not be heavy, or else that's just not my personality. So don't worry, it won't be heavy. And we'll figure out what's been stopping you up until now, and we'll create a plan. So this is a 45-minute call with me. If you're interested, go to connectwithkaren.us. Now, normally for my one-on-ones, I charge about $350 an hour, and you're getting this for free. So jump on it, take advantage. It will change your life. I will provide lots of value for you, that I promise. So if you're interested, connectwithkaren.us. If I'm talking to you, you know it. It will take you directly to my personal calendar. It'll just ask you a couple of questions, and then we will meet within a couple of days. And I promise I will make a difference for you. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you want and when you get it.